Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Grants Committee meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raised hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference and to please be aware of your surroundings behind you. All commission meetings and committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select Live Transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select Enable Auto Transcription. Thank you.
Elizabeth, will you take roll?
Bakshi,
Here.
Huang, Rhodes,
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Are there any public comments?
Yes, there are public comments. I will allow the first person to speak.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, board. I'm here to ask you to make grants available to the public when they find themselves on the abusive end of powerful city attorneys such as Heidi Feldstein Soto. There's one person who's looking at a year's worth of jail time because he went against the Church of Scientology, who was putting plastic stuff down on a public easement to prevent any ADA or any person from being on their easement. And he removed it because it was trash. They had no permission to put it there. But the city attorney, instead of going after the people who put it there, are going against the person who took it up. He's looking at a year's worth of jail time. He needs help. There needs to be grant resources. There's also another person who is upset about what she's being accused of in the LA Times and confronted her in public. And she did nothing, but another like neighborhood council person got in his face and was being very verbally abusive. And that person's in trouble, but not the attorney who allowed him. Like, it was her job. The neighborhood councils fall under the city attorney. It was Heidi Feldstein Soto's job to tell him he is out of line. He can't do that. Not only did she not do that, she thanked him and did not. And so this person abused the rights, the freedom of speech of one person, and did not get the direction of the city attorney to know that he was out of order, and she was right there. So there's a lot of people who are abused by people in power across the board, and there needs to be help for the little person who finds themselves up against a Goliath, a city attorney. And I know she's been reported numerous times, and she needs to be looked into for her bar. Her attorneys. I've seen her attorneys also allow. Is that the time? Thank you. Oh no. I also seen her attorneys allow different violations, like Brown Act violations, at city council meetings, and they do nothing. And they need to be looked into. And I know for you guys, it's a branch with legal aid, and legal aid is necessary. We need legal aid. Everyone who's coming up against these people who are being abused, imagine looking at a year's worth of time for picking up garbage that had no right to be there. What about equal application of the law? The Church of Scientology, or the cult of Scientology, should be the ones fined for putting plastic on an easement so no person can go on. I'm in a chair. I can't access it. People getting out of their cars couldn't access it. Dogs can't access it. It's the public easement. It belongs to us. And they were not reprimanded, scolded, or anything. They have planters now that the city told them is not ADA compliant and need to be removed. They're not being removed, but yet she's going after the one person who tried to make a difference for the public. He's looking at a year's worth of jail time. It's ridiculous. Please make this stuff stop. Give the people help to go after even public officials who are lawyers. Thank you.
Audit LA, thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, and I have allowed the next person to speak.
Yes, how y'all doing? I'm trying to figure out a solution to, first of all, that the cult of Scientology doesn't have to answer to anybody and they can just operate at free will, fair gaming people, harassing and stalking and costing people thousands of dollars and missing days of work to show up at court on bogus charges that are being beat. Even it's more expensive because they have to go to trial to prove their innocence. What's the punishment for them? Like making false calls. What's the pushback? I hear all this money being asked to be given and given, but what's the consequences to a lot of these criminal actions that they're committing? We don't know who to go to. We're beating them in court, but obviously it's not stopping them and the police from making false arrests and filling out false restraining orders. It's getting ridiculous with the planters not being moved. They still not opening up L. Ron Hubbard like they supposed to. The lady out at LA, she's in a wheelchair. She can't even access to where she needs to go on a public street and a public sidewalk because they feel they want to block her. They not the lawmakers, but somebody needs to make them abide by the law. It's sad that they go out their way and nobody can't do nothing. They stalk, they harass their families through mail, send pictures, all kind of disgusting things, mess with people's job, they swat. They talking about a waste of taxpayers' money with the false swattings. I literally saw my friend with guns to his head with fear in his face because the LAPD was responding to a false SWAT recall. The man had no gun. He was not doing anything that was not illegal. He was in his legal rights to do what he was doing, expressing his freedom of speech. You can't pull guns on somebody and literally put fear in their face because you want to, and somebody made a false call without it even being investigated. And then once they seen it was false, there was no consequences to the caller.
Okay, Mr. Kenny, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Yes. And I have allowed the next person to speak.
Hi, good morning, board. My name is Andrew Marini. Can you hear me well? Thank
Yes,
you.
we can hear you.
Yes.
I appreciate your time today. I just want to clarify and say I am one of the victims of being a public critic to Scientology. In my short couple of months here, I have been a victim of bogus criminal charges from City Attorney Heidi Soto, the same city attorney who refuses to issue criminal charges against a man named Wendell, who publicly defecated and masturbated in front of a minor out by the Church of Scientology and was hired by the Church of Scientology. And we have direct evidence that says so. Heidi Soto, not only that, would much rather see people who are critics of Scientology be prosecuted, not child predators like Anthony D'Amato Jr., who have a restraining order for constantly sexually harassing and swatting a minor by the name of Solomon Sassoon. I just want to read you one of the comments that this person, Anthony D'Amato Jr., makes against a minor named Solomon. I fucked Solomon's mama. Took me a while to cook up the cream pie because she has such a wide set vag. I want to play to you one of the videos used in court as part of the evidence used to obtain the restraining order, where Anthony D'Amato Jr. makes explicit comment to want to rape a minor. Here you go.
I am going to personally grape and give the gift of grape to Solomon and his mother in their home. I would pay for it. I would pay for their monthly subscription to my grape club. Okay. Zero Dark Tony's grape experience.
This is what he has to go with day in and day out. We also know for a fact that Mr. Anthony D'Amato Jr. is the person behind swatting calls. I have had guns pointed at my head Anthony D'Amato Jr. is a Scientologist and works directly with Kendrick Moxon, a Scientology lawyer. Kendrick Moxon has also committed perjury on several counts. You don't have to take my word on this. It's not hearsay. It's official on court records. I've made a complaint to the Chief Trial Counsel. When will action be taken? Will it be too late? Will the blood of this child, Solomon Sassoon, be on your hands? Will another protester have to die? Will my dog have to be killed as a result of Mr. D'Amato's death threats for you to take action? Thank you.
And thank you for your comments. Any other public comments?
Yes, I've allowed the next person to speak.
Good afternoon, committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I would like to address this committee on the subject of the fellowship grants. I would like to see more fellowship grants going to the CE credits, especially for the older attorneys that may need refresher courses pertaining to constitutional law. Lately, there have been several cases, Hochstetter versus Costner, Good versus Costner, which ended up being anti-SLAPP cases, and Scientology versus Hochstetter, or Scientology v. You can just replace the name as you will. Today was another win against the Scientology cult. Their on-staff longtime attorney, Kendrick Moxon, and the city attorney, Heidi Soto, are batting zero against the advocates demonstrating against the abusive practices of Scientology. As constitutional students, I am sure you would agree to deny an individual of a First Amendment right is a violation of fundamental public policy. And as the world evolves into more media access, this right will be contended more and more. I do believe that there needs to be additional funds to bring the attorneys up to speed on our media access. Thank you, and I give back my time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments?
No, there are no other hands raised. Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. There is one person who just raised their hand, and I'm allowing
Okay.
them to speak. You should be allowed to speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, how you doing? I'm from the state of New York. I'm a victim of child sexual abuse from the Church of Scientology as I grew up in a neighborhood surrounded by them before they took over my apartment complex in Clearwater, Florida. Okay, these people are so dangerous. It brings tears to my eyes to see small children walking through those doors and knowing damn well what they're going through. I appreciate everyone's time and I stand by all my friends who are fighting this fight. And we really need people's support, other people's support in this. This is dangerous. This cult is dangerous. They just moved into my county. They just bought a building for $15.2 million in Melville, New York. Okay, this is horrible what's going on here. And the laws state that children are protected by our laws, but yet no one is following up with this. You're allowing this child abuse to continue and human trafficking. These are innocent children whose lives are ripped from them for no reason whatsoever. For what? For what? What is the point? What is the reasoning for this? My life was destroyed. I'm also a veteran of the US Army. Okay. I know PTSD. I know combat. I know fighting. I know what it's like. Okay. But childhood PTSD due to sexual abuse is a worse scenario. And I'm living proof of that. Okay. I thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
No, there are no other hands raised.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon, for coordinating that. So hello and welcome to our committee. I'd like to welcome new members from the Council on Access and Fairness, Judge Michael Rhodes and Kamul Chatsky. Welcome. Elizabeth, Director's Report.
I'll actually defer my report till till 3.2.
Okay.
so we can move on to a presentation on the 2024 Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Cohort.
Okay.
Thank you. That'll be me. Give me 1 second. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And can you all see that?
Yes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Abraham Gutierrez. I'm a program analyst for the State Bar's Office of Access and Inclusion. Today, I'll be presenting on the data collected from the post-fellowship survey, where we asked questions of the 2024 fellows to try to evaluate their overall experience with the Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship. I'll also cover demographics and other responses received in the pre-fellowship survey the fellows submitted prior to the start of their internship. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions, or if you'd like me to hold on a slide so you can get a good look at the data. Okay. So first, a brief overview. The Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Program is a summer internship program launched in 2023. It is funded through a $5 donation from the attorney licensing fee. The host organizations mentioned in this chart must participate in a competitive grants process in order to receive funding to host the fellows. Here in the chart, we see a comparison between the 2023 fellowship and 2024. The hours worked here is an estimate derived from the reported length of the fellowship. So this varied between each fellow, but normally was about 9 to 10 weeks. Then we multiplied it by their reported average number of hours worked. Before I move on, I'll say that the survey response rate in 2024 was 99%. And as noted here at the bottom, the data I will be presenting on only includes responses by State Bar funded fellows.
And I just want to note that we've partnered with California Change Lawyers to provide programming to the fellows, and Change Lawyers has also funded additional fellows through this grant program. So for 2023, they funded an additional 5 fellows. And then in 2024, they funded, I believe, an additional 12 fellows. But that's not reflected here. Thank you, Abraham.
Thank you. Right. So first, we'll go through the demographic composition of the cohort. We have a comparison of the reported gender identity of the cohort. The charts show a comparison with California's attorney population and California's law student population. What's not included here is the statewide population, but that would just be a chart with a 50-50 split between men and women. I also wanted to note that the data for California's attorney and student populations were sourced from the State Bar's 2023 Diversity Report Card. So here we can see the cohort shows a higher representation for women as compared to the other groups. No survey respondent in the 2024 cohort stated they were non-binary. Next, we have visualization of the cohort's reported race ethnicity as compared to statewide and attorney demographics. Fellows who identified as American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Middle Eastern or North African, or more than one race ethnicity had greater representation when compared to attorney and statewide demographics. And fellows who identified as Hispanic, Latino, or white had lower representation when compared to the statewide and attorney populations. I'll also note here that Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders is left out of the chart only because the demographic represents less than 1% of the population of attorneys and California as a whole. So here they would appear as 0%, and no fellow reported their race ethnicity as Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. Okay. So here we have the same demographic data, but rolled up to compare the percentage of fellows who identified as persons of color compared to the populations of California law students, California attorneys, and the adult population of California. For the fellows, people of color had greater representation when compared to the other populations, significantly more representation than that of California's attorney population. Okay. Now we have, this chart represents the fellows who describe themselves as LGBTQIA+. We're showing greater representation when compared to the California adult population and the California attorney population. So now we're moving into the areas of law and skills gained as reported by the cohort. Fellows gained substantive and procedural law training, received mentorship, and were exposed to public interest law and have opportunities for in-court observations during the fellowship. They worked in areas of law such as housing, family and domestic violence, immigration, disability rights, and employment law. The chart here shows the number of respondents who agreed or strongly agreed with the statement, which said they had the opportunity to improve legal skills such as writing, critical thinking, cultural humility, and legal research. Those showed a positive response rate of above 90%. We have client interaction and diversity, equity, and inclusion at above 80%. Trauma-informed care and conflict resolution at 78 and 76%. And public speaking at 50%. Okay. On this slide, we brought results of the pre-survey to show the significant change in the cohort's preferences for certain types of professional development opportunities after the fellowship. So here on the left, we have the pre-survey results, and on the right, they are the post-survey results. Notably, we saw interest in participating in panel discussions go from 39% to 92%, interest in financial training for budget management and running solo practices increased from 40 to 80%, interest in training to draft court documents and financial planning for the public student loan forgiveness program increased from 57 to 71%, and interest in legal skills training increased from 66 to 90%. So here, as Elizabeth mentioned, we also asked the cohort to explain their experience or describe their experience with the Change Lawyer webinars. So the Change Lawyer, as Liz mentioned, is a nonprofit organization based in California that focuses on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion within the legal profession. The entire cohort had the opportunity to attend webinars hosted by the Change Lawyers program or organization. And these webinars were designed to provide a holistic view of public interest law while also giving practical career advice and emphasizing mental health and mindfulness. So the fellows each attended on average 3 of these webinars for a combined total of 261 webinars attended. Here in the bubbles, we have a selection of comments from the fellows on the webinars, and generally the feedback was very positive. Okay. Here we see the fellows' response to questions evaluating their overall experience with the fellowship. During the pre-survey, fellows were asked to describe the most important factors for a positive fellowship experience. The top 3 factors were clear training, access to their supervisor, and mentorship. We explained earlier that each of the fellows had the opportunity to be mentored or agreed that they received that opportunity. But here we asked the cohort to assess how satisfied they were with those aspects. We saw mostly positive responses in regard to satisfaction with the meaning of their work, the access to their supervisor, how they were supervised, the feedback they received, how their time was used, and their compensation. We did see what amounts to 1 or 2 responses that had disagreement in access to their supervisor and their compensation. So it did not point to a wider problem with either the fellowship or the organization, but we did make sure to note those issues. Okay. And lastly, overall, 96% of the fellows responded with either strongly agree or agree when asked if the fellowship met their expectation. 97% of the respondents either agreed or strongly agreed when they asked they would recommend the fellowship to other law students interested in legal aid. 67% showed high and very high levels of interest in pursuing a career in legal aid following the mentorship program. And 86% of the fellows stated they would not have otherwise been able to work for a legal aid organization if not for State Bar's funding of the fellowship. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Adrian, can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Under the area, the comments regarding, I think it was 48% under my compensation
Yes.
disagreement, was that based upon how their fellowship funds were distributed? or the actual amount that was allocated, if you know?
Yeah, we didn't ask for that specific detail. The question was stated as during my fellowship, I was satisfied with my compensation. So it could be the distribution or the amount of compensation.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to share that slide again. Yeah, here we are. So yes, the question, it was asked as it's written out here.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Great, thank you, everybody.
Okay. Now we can see them, I guess, the update on the 2025 Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Grant funding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. So I wanted to just provide a brief update on the funding. As many of you know, this funding for the fellowships is authorized through Business and Professions Code 6140.03. It was set to sunset at the end of this year, 2024. However, the State Bar did advocate for an extension to the statute to allow this funding to move forward for 5 more years. The governor did sign just a couple weeks ago the legislation to allow us to extend the funding through January 30th, 2030. It also increases the set aside for this fund from $5 of the $45 donation on the attorney licensing fee statement. So we are very excited about that. That increase in the set aside will allow us to fund additional fellowships. So I do want to thank the Legal Aid Association of California, California Change Lawyers, and the California Access to Justice Commission for their support in our advocacy regarding this legislation and this funding stream. With the $10 set aside, which we will begin collecting revenue for this fund with the attorney licensing fee statement, fee cycle, which begins on December 1st. We estimate that we will have approximately $1.6 million to distribute for this fund, which is a little bit over half or doubling of the dollars that we've been able to distribute for the last 2 summers. So that's really exciting. And so you will also see, so we had the RFP for this grant for 2025 available to our grantees in September. When we closed the application cycle on September 16th, we had requests for $2.6 million in funding to fund 273 fellows. So an increase in the interest in this funding stream for sure. But it is very exciting. And we will, as we move forward with the review of the applications, we'll definitely provide guidance and some recommendations to the committee and how we will how the committee may grant awards for 2025.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for the wonderful news, Elizabeth. We're all excited about opportunity to have 5 more years of giving out the fellowships. Okay. Now we'll move to approve the open session minutes from August the 1st. Are there any edits to the meeting minutes? No. Okay. Guess for a motion to approve the minutes?
I will move.
Okay. Second? Can I second?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Hold on. While I figure that out, we can move on to the next item.
Okay. Okay, all right. Now we'll move to the business initial calibration of the fellowships.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to start by providing a quick overview of our rubric that we used to score the applications. As a reminder, the rubric includes 8 different variables. So 5 under category definition, impact on the organization, organizational benefit, supervision and administration of the fellowship, support and evaluation of the fellow, recruitment for the fellows into the program, and then 3 funding preferences. 1, the degree to which they serve rural populations. 2nd, the degree to which they serve underserved populations. And 3rd, the degree to which they serve clients regardless of immigration or citizenship status. The first 5 category definitions are scored as either a 0, 2, 6, or 10, whereas the funding preferences are scored as a 0, 1, 3, or 5. And these rankings are exceed expectations would be the highest score, meet expectations, so it's competitive and persuasive, but does not yet exceed. Below expectations, not addressed would be a score of 0. So with that, I'm going to move to the scores for the initial 3 applications that we scored and calibrated as review teams. And there was actually only 1 score, which the review teams had different scores for all the other categories. The review teams came out with the exact same score. So for the purpose of the calibration of this committee, we'll be discussing the recruitment score of the application from Central California Legal Services. So review team 1, both teams actually took an average of the scores, which is why they're different from the 0, 2, 6, 10. Review team 1, there were 2 10s and a 6. Review team 2, there were 2 6 and a 10s, and the averages were taken within the review teams. So the average of those scores would be an 8. And I want to again remind us of the rubric when it comes to recruitment. Recruitment would be applicants should describe specifically and in detail how they recruit or will recruit the fellows by the selected start date. They should explain to how they plan to seek a strong and diverse pool of candidates, outreach efforts, interest in pursuing a career. They should note whether how the organization's evaluation and selection process relates to the purpose of work for the fellow. And if they've already selected the fellow, they should note if anything makes them particularly qualified to perform the work. And the scores that we are going to be using will be based off of the meets, exceeds, below expectations not addressed. So it seems that the scores are really hanging between a meets expectations or an exceeds expectations. Would it be helpful for me to keep the rankings definitions up while you review the response on the application?
Yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Any comments from the reviewers?
In terms of exceeding expectations, for those who look at the response and feel that it exceeds, are there specific areas in which you feel the response exceeds the expectations of the rubric?
Mark, can you go back to the other screen where you had the spreadsheet of the scores?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So we're just looking at that single score that you've highlighted in pink, right?
That single score, yes. For all the other scores, the review teams scored the same, but if you did have any questions about particular categories or scores, we can discuss that. But yes, that score for recruitment on that one application is the only area where the review teams came across with different scores.
So if there's anything any of the committee members would like to share about perhaps why they thought this particular grantee exceeded expectations or just met expectations in this category, what characteristics of their answer that you found led you to your score, that I think that would be helpful to share, so that we can get to a common understanding of this category and how best to score.
I'm happy to start us off, and I know we had a robust
Thanks.
conversation previously about this. I was impressed by the number of schools that they reached out to. I think part of this too is looking for our conversation was looking at the other two programs or the other two applicants and comparing what they were doing and wanting to see a little bit more when it came to, although there's a number of schools here that are across California, maybe additional outreach to different bar organizations was something that we had seen in other applications. National outreach in some other applications was something that we saw. So although this was really strong, I think that was one of the things that may have tipped some folks in favor of meets rather than exceeds expectations, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same perspective. It's you know, the recruitment process, you know, it varies based upon the organization's needs and access, and we try to differentiate, you know, which ones seem to go above and beyond. I think, for example, you know, affinity groups may have been, you know, rated higher. Those who have been more kind of expansive reach for community organizations and events might have been higher. So I think it's subtle, but that's how we come with those differences.
Amal, did you have any thoughts on the application response for this category?
Yeah, I think initially I had rated them a bit low, but can someone remind me where this organization is located? Because I think this is where we had a little bit of a discussion about people who may not, or organizations that might not be located in areas that where it's easier to recruit, like big cities. So are these the ones that were located? They're Central Valley, right? Is that
They are Central Valley, yes.
Okay. So for me, that was pretty convincing in terms of increasing their score in this category a bit.
Any thoughts about that context?
No problem. I mean, I would feel comfortable keeping it, as it is. I mean, there are other scores represented, the quality of work that they're doing, and there are regional differences and so forth. That will always be the case. So I feel comfortable keeping it as is.
So, sorry, Elizabeth.
I was just going to ask Kamal, just following up with Kamal's comment, recognizing kind of the differences that perhaps a rural organization might have in recruiting as compared to an urban organization. Being on review team 2, would you be comfortable upgrading your score?
I'm comfortable with the current score of 8. Originally, I had personally rated them lower, but I, taking into account their location, I would be comfortable with the score of 8.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Campbell, Judge Rhodes, how do you feel about a score of 8?
I'll second what Dr. Campbell said, which is I think all of these groups are admirable in a lot of the things that they're doing, and it can be difficult to parse the differences between a 7, an 8, and a 9. I'm comfortable with an 8.
Okay. All right.
So then I think that
Okay.
that was the only category where we wanted to have a little bit of discussion today. So unless committee members have questions or would like to discuss the other categories, I think we can complete this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And Mara, you can stop sharing your screen.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, like this, Elizabeth, anything else?
I think if we could go back to item 4.1, approval of the open session minutes.
Yes.
So my understanding, and I'm not a parliamentary procedure expert, but my understanding is that the chair can second a motion. And my understanding is also that even if a member was not present during a meeting, they can vote to approve minutes. If I am wrong, I would like to be corrected because I voted to approve those minutes.
That is correct, Judge Rhodes. And I was just trying to get to the screen with that information on so I could get that right. So thank you for putting that forth for us.
So, given what was just said, I'm happy to second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Elizabeth,
so we have
response?
great. So we have Judge Rhodes moving, Kamal seconding, and I'll do the roll call.
Okay.
Chachi?
Yes.
Huang? Rhodes?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Well, thank you for the teamwork. I'd like to thank the committee on completing our first review. Look forward to seeing you in the future for the future reviews. And we're looking forward to working with everybody. So no other comments, will adjourn for the day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, okay. Elizabeth, can you hold off 1 second?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm going to stop recording.